Welcome to Let's Talk Gardening. I'm Norma Samuel with the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, UF-IFAS Extension in Sumter County. Today I'm talking to you from my backyard, and I have a guest today who's actually my husband, Lesroy Samuel, and we're going to be talking to you about container gardening. Lesroy is an avid gardener, and that's his hobby, and he is very happy about sharing some of his gardening experiences with you today. Lesroy, tell us how long you've been gardening.
Uh, all my life, pretty much. Growing up in Antigua, grew up on a farm, raising animals and cultivating the land. So from an early age, I was introduced into agriculture. Upon leaving school, I went to study agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. Then upon returning, I went back to work with the Ministry of Agriculture in Antigua for over 10 years. So gardening has been in my system all my life, pretty much.
All right. So I see you have a lot of vegetables planted in containers here. So could you tell our audience why you've moved to container gardening?
Yeah, initially I started to go in the soil. After the first season, I realized there was a high incidence of nematodes. So I figured one way to counteract that nematode problem was to move to container gardening. As you can see, the soil is very sandy, so it doesn't hold a lot of nutrients or moisture. So by growing in containers, I was able to manipulate the soil or in better control of the soil just to counteract the nematode problem. The other thing I've done is to try a wide arrangement of nematode-resistant varieties of tomatoes as well.
So could you tell the audience what nematodes are?
Nematodes are essentially microscopic worms. You really cannot see them with the naked eye. What you see are the damages of the nematodes. If you were to pluck the roots of the tomato plants, for example, they will be swollen. Some probably got galls on them. Eventually, the roots won't be able to pick up water or nutrients, and the plant will eventually die.
So it's like a plumbing system being clogged.
That's right.
Yes.
So pretty much the way to get around that is to grow in containers or to choose nematode-resistant varieties. Now, nematode-resistant varieties does not mean they won't get nematodes eventually because it's a long growing season. It just means that by the time the nematodes are fully established, you would have gotten a crop or two from the harvested.
Okay. So tell us a little about your soil mix and also why you have that black plastic on the ground.
The black plastic is a way to reduce the soil, the root going through the soil again. So it acts to trim the root and prevent the root from getting into the soil where it would pick up the nematodes if it get to the soil level. And it's also a weed control.
So what mix do you have in that container?
The container is potting mix and organic cow compost manure blend.
Okay. And I see you have PVC pipes, and you also have one of the staking material that I mentioned in our first episode. And tell us how you go about your staking on the tomatoes.
Right, for the tomatoes I use both system, the wire mesh that I made myself of course, and I also use PVC pipe. PVC pipe is very durable, they're going to last forever hopefully, and it all depends on the particular variety. The bush type, you probably don't need to stake them, so I use the PVC only for the bush type, and I use the cage wire and the PVC for the indeterminate type of varieties.
And we did talk about determinate and indeterminate varieties in our first episode. So how many varieties of tomatoes you have this year? I know in the past sometimes you've grown up to 160 different varieties in one growing season. So how many do you have this season?
This year I've scaled back the number of varieties. I think we're at about 45 varieties. I'm focusing more on the commercial recommended varieties for Florida this year.
And where can our homeowners find these varieties if they're looking for them?
Unfortunately, most of these varieties you're not going to find at the garden store. So what I had to do was to source them online at various seed catalogs, Johnny Seed, Home Seed Company, yeah.
Now, you talked about resistance to nematodes. Are there any other disease resistance you look for in selecting your varieties?
Yes. Nematode is my number one disease pathogen that I'm looking for in terms of resistance. Then I'm looking for the viruses, tomato spotted wilt virus, tomato yellow leaf curl virus. Those two viruses are very prevalent in the southeastern United States, and they can be very detrimental to the tomato crop. And there are no cures for the viruses, so you definitely want to look for varieties that have that particular resistance.
Are you also looking for like fusarium resistance?
Yes, I said the big three: verticillium, fusarium, and nematodes. So you have verticillium, then you have fusarium 1, fusarium 2, fusarium 3. So at the end of the varietal name, you tend to see the letters that will tell you the particular diseases that these varieties are resistant to. So I'm looking for VFN initially, verticillium, fusarium, then nematode. Additionally, then I'm looking for the viruses: tomato yellow leaf curl and tomato spotted wilt virus, and tomato mosaic virus as well.
Okay. So, name a few varieties that you have growing here.
In the first row over here, we have Florida 91, and liver.
And notice that he has his pots labeled. So where's the label for this one? Oh, so it's down at the other end. And here you have Sebring. So what can you tell us about the Sebring variety?
Sebring is a commercial variety grown in Florida. It's a fantastic eating quality variety. It is resistant to fusarium and verticillium wilt.
Okay.
This one here is Florida 91.
Uh-huh.
This is another variety developed for Florida. It is one of the heat tolerant varieties. It's not resistant to nematodes. You can expect 8 to 10 ounce fruits.
Wow. Okay, if you could come this way and tell us about what I see on the leaves here.
Yeah, what you're looking at there is leaf miner. It's caused by a little fly. The damage is superficial. It doesn't need to do any treatment per se. By the time as you see the damage, the fly has already emerged from the leaf. It's just the little caterpillar that is feeding between the upper and the lower leaf surfaces. The damage is superficial.
So what's your major pest problems that you encounter? Are there anything other than the diseases you mentioned, the verticillium wilt, fusarium wilt, and nematode problems?
Yeah, they're going to be aphids. As you get warmer, you probably have aphids. You probably have some thrips, and of course you have caterpillars and grasshoppers. I haven't done any spraying yet. I haven't seen any for it yet either. But I'm gearing up. As you get warmer, you expect the white flies and the aphids to start popping up.
Okay, so we will come back at you another time and talk some about pest management and how you go about that as the plants are growing. So thank you so much, Lesroy, for allowing us to interview you, and we wish you a productive growing season this year.
Thank you.